What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined by my trusty co-host Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, how you doing this week?
Doing good, man. Sitting with this new J Electronica album. We officially have more official J Electronica albums in 2020 than we do stimulus checks. It's quite the reality that he dropped literally a second album officially. Blows the mind.
Yeah, check out that review, youtube.com/nostalgiapod. Hit the subscribe. We are not going to be talking about the J Electronica album because neither one of us is a title subscriber, so we didn't listen to it. But if you did listen to it, let us know what you think. We'll get to it eventually.
It's supposed to be good because it's all old stuff.
Yeah, I want to hear the new J Electronica. I don't know.
You did. What's the difference? You just had to hear Jay-Z wax him for 40 minutes.
We're going to be talking a couple albums this weekend, a show I think that we both really like. But Dave, first, we're going to talk about the state of the pop culture world during COVID, because it's still our reality, going on 7 months now, and it's still our reality. I mean, what was it, March 13th, 14th, when the NBA shut down? That crazy night?
Yes. Yep. That Thursday or Wednesday night.
By the time you're listening to this, it's pretty much exactly 7 months from that date. And the NBA Finals just wrapped up. Shout out to the bubble. Shout out to LeBron James and AD and J.R. Smith, who didn't play but celebrated like he carried the team the whole way. But unlike the bubble, COVID is still affecting all of our worlds. And, we've talked about theaters and how they're, probably in a lot of trouble moving forward. Check out our opening discussion on last week's pod. But this past week, it was announced that Soul is going to be dropping on Disney Plus for no extra cost on Christmas Day. And Dave, I wanted to ask you, because we've been talking about all the awful ways COVID is impacting things. Is this a sliver of hope, a nice shining light of something that we're still going to get sold this year? Or how are you feeling about that decision?
I mean, yeah, I suppose it would be nice, I think, if that movie got to be in the theaters, at least in like Europe or something. I know the European theater owners are very mad about that. It's going to be on Disney Plus, wherever Disney Plus is available, basically. And that's great for the consumer and the Disney Plus subscriber. But yeah, it's like the industry needs new product. And if the new stuff isn't actually available to the theaters, it's basically not a new product, right? But I'm excited to see that, because by all accounts, this has been the buzz for a while, that it's a very strong Pixar entry and like a best animated feature contender kind of thing, not on a different wavelength than say Onward was, which was more the enjoyable if unremarkable Pixar. So definitely excited to see it, and that's quite the choice time to drop it, when people will be together with their families. There'll be a lot of group viewing of this. I'm sure it'll kind of dominate those streaming like charts and stuff.
Oh, totally. I think the timing of it makes a ton of sense. I'm a little bummed, from everything we can kind of tell about this movie, it seems to be about finding purpose, the afterlife in a way, and also jazz. And I feel like a lot of people probably aren't going to be listening to this on like a home theater system. It'll probably just be regular television, sound system. So there might be something lost in terms of like the mixing and editing of the sound in it. But overall, I think this is a real positive, because as we keep thinking about all these movies that we're not going to be able to see and that are getting pushed back, I mean, is there any movie in 2020 that's still on the calendar? I guess maybe Wonder Woman still is, technically.
Wonder Woman still is. Death on the Nile. Ryan Reynolds, Free Guy. Those are the most notable like major movies. There'll be a lot of independent and smaller awards-esque movies that are going to get small releases wherever they can get them, just to kind of ramp up that stuff. Like Nomadland's going to come out in December, and One Night in Miami is going to come out in Christmas, and then Amazon a few weeks later. So it's like stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I imagine all the major tentpoles that have been delayed will be delayed in time, as we said last week. Um, following with Bond and Black Widow and everything else. So yeah, it's going to be weird, right? Because it's like we have some stuff on the calendar that's and I think that's kind of what's going to dominate all the discussion, right? It's just Netflix is kind of gearing up their plans. Got Trial of Chicago 7 coming up. Following week we have Rebecca. Apple's dropping On the Rocks. HBO Max has that Witches movie from Zemeckis. Then we get Hillbilly Elegy at some point soon. Mank in December officially. Rainey's Black Bottom, the Chadwick Boseman movie in December. So it's going to be a lot of like appointment viewing via streaming, and I feel like anything that's not announced with a streaming or immediate like rental option is just not going to be on anyone's radar.
Yeah, it definitely, again, going back to the theater discussion from last week, a huge bummer for them, but it's nice, I think, for the consumer that not all of these movies are being pushed back. There are still some things to be looking forward to. As you mentioned, Trial of the Chicago 7 dropping this coming Friday. Very excited for that. It's just nice to have, some sense of things rolling out and still happening, especially as we look at the landscape of the country and are kind of left with this uncertainty of when going back to the theater will be something people feel safe throughout the country to do. So happy about that. I wanted to shift real quick and just get your thoughts on Morgan Wallen. Have you heard of this guy, Dave? Morgan Wallen? He's a country singer, up-and-coming country singer, about 27 years old, was set to perform on SNL this past week. And then about Thursday, it came out that he no longer would be performing because he didn't follow, or SNL felt like he was not taking COVID precautions seriously. There were pictures of him out partying the night before, not keeping distance. So SNL said, "Buddy, you can't perform with us now." And they just called up Jack White, this little known rock star. Who's that? He came on, Dave, and the song he started with was "Don't Hurt Yourself" from Lemonade. The song him and Beyonce did together. Then he did like a medley for his first act. It's pretty cool, actually, but really enjoyed that performance. But this is the first time I can remember something that's being done live. There's not a lot of live things right now that are being done in person where a performer wasn't allowed to perform because they didn't follow COVID restrictions. Any thoughts around this?
I mean, that guy probably feels like an idiot because if he's going on SNL, it's for fucking promo for his own career, So just don't make that kind of mistake. It's pretty obvious at this point. SNL had to work really hard to do not in-person shows in the summer. So they definitely don't want to go back to that. So good on them. That's the way they should act.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm glad that they were so strict with it. It was actually a really interesting episode. Kate McKinnon at one point broke character. Talking about how this is a really difficult time. Bill Burr got very political, particularly about white women and how they're kind of taking over the woke movement. That received a lot of Twitter backlash the next day. And Pete Davidson came at J.K. Rowling for her transphobic tweets and comments. So,
I didn't see that.
Overall, quite a political episode. And the first episode wasn't very good, but Bill Burr, I felt like really brought out something in the cast this time, which is exciting to see. I don't know, just interesting COVID times right now and seeing how things are impacted by the socio-political state of the world that we live in, unfortunately. So, I don't know. Any last thoughts? Yeah. Let's move on to some music.
Things suck, man. It's everybody knows at this point.
I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, I fucking hate COVID. Like, there's really not much else to say. I just hate it. It's terrible. And hopefully the next 20 or so days go by quick, and hopefully it doesn't drag out much longer than that. So make a plan to vote, people. Anyways, let's jump to some music. Let's jump to our Baltimore guys, Dave, Future Islands, dropping their sixth album, I believe. Yeah, As Long as You Are. We haven't really talked about Future Islands, the album, on here, but I've definitely talked about them in terms of their song "Seasons Waiting on You," ranked 34th on Pitchfork's Songs of the Decade last
Oh,
year, and
shit.
96th, I believe, on Rolling Stones. So a real 2010s banger of a song, and really just an amazing, beautiful song. Future Islands probably known best for their lead singer, Samuel Herring, who has this very distinct vocal, like a kind of like a guttural growl in a way, like
Yeah.
baritone voice.
Mm-hmm.
But also when he performs live, he does really, really strange and unique dancing that makes him like a very I don't know, weird but captivating frontman to watch. And I think Future Islands is very much in that like middle tier of rock bands right now, where they consistently put out good work, but I don't think any of it ever really jumps out off as much as Seasons did. But this new album, As Long as You Are, did this catch your ear at all? Did anything in here strike you as really top quality?
I thought it was pretty pleasant listen, and that's just because those lead vocals, as you said, are so striking. And I just think the performance is pretty consistently engaging, and I like that a lot. Yeah, I think the music itself, it's pretty light, pretty fluffy, but when you have those kind of vocals, I don't know, I thought the vibe was pretty cool. He kind of reminded me of one of the singers that Trans-Siberian Orchestra used to have back in the day. That like on like This Christmas Day, like one of like those dudes. It's like that's where that it's like that baritone you said, like that, like kind of like range just kind of brought me back specifically to some music that everyone will be hearing a lot more soon, obviously with the seasons. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty enjoyable. I liked it.
Dave, are you a big Trans-Siberian Orchestra guy?
They got some bangers, bro.
They do. What's your favorite?
Well, what's it called? Wizards in Winter, Mad Russians, Christmas, songs like that. Yeah. That shit hits.
Have you seen them live?
Once, yeah, way back in the day.
Yeah, you only have to go once because it's the same show over and over.
See the pyrotechnics, you know. Get the vibe.
You get like the elevated stages, the guys running through the crowd, like blaring on the guitar. Anyways, we'll talk more about them when the winter hits. But anyways, jumping back to Future Islands. Yeah, I thought this was a very solid album. Like it was consistent all the way through, and I felt like it was definitely a surprise, because I really haven't found a lot of their stuff to be as engaging as this. Probably my favorite track was Waking, which is like this 80s glitzy keyboard driven song, and the bass line in that is just so good. Really loved that song, and it actually kind of reminded me of a Killer song a little bit in terms of its sound, which I think is why I probably was that's probably why I liked it. I also really liked the first single off it for sure, and Born in War, some of the earlier tracks. But yeah, no one sounds like Samuel Herring, so I think that's really the draw to Future Islands. But overall, I think it's a lot of the same. I don't think their music ever really jumps out of me as like, wow, except for Seasons. So maybe they'll recapture it, but it's still okay to be a solid mid-tier band. So we'll jump on now to someone a little bit less seasoned than Future Islands. We're going to jump to Reason, the TDE signing, young gun, West Coast.
He's actually like 30 though.
Is he really?
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of like musical output, he's had a lot of mixtapes, right? But
this is a debut album right here
so.
on TDE from Reason.
And his first project was 2 years ago. There you have it, 2018. Yeah, if you just listen to this, don't even know anything about Reason, I think pretty quickly you get that California vibe, and you kind of get the sense of who he is, and especially if you look at the guest list on here, you got Schoolboy, you got Isaiah coming in, you have
Mhm.
JID. So there's some of those,
Solo.
yeah.
Got a lot of notable TDE features. You like to see that from the
And
label.
I'm pretty sure you even get Kendrick popping up here for a couple of ad libs, right?
Yeah, like uncredited background vocals.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But was this Reason album a strong album in your opinion? How were you feeling after listening to it?
Yeah, I mean, I like his performance a lot. Like that kind of West Coast like rasp that he has with his delivery reminds me a lot of like Nipsey and Mozzie and stuff. But and he's a pretty engaging like uh, competent technical rapper usually the whole time. And there's some shit that really hits here, but I don't think this really comes together as like a great like album like in terms of like a full body of work, 14 tracks kind of thing. It was more just about moments for me with this, which I guess is a little disappointing because I do think he's pretty talented, but I think he should be able to drop something a little more cohesive next time. I don't know. It's just like he seemed to have a lot of messages and things on this album, but for whatever reason, I never really engaged with it the way I want to with a lot of other TDE albums. I think of last time we talked about TDE was Schoolboy Q last year at Crash Talk, and I think that's an album that is okay, but didn't really hit the high standards people have for Schoolboy Q.
Yeah.
And in Reason's case, he doesn't really have any standards for himself. No one really knows who he is, even though he's older for a new rapper, or debut album anyway. And yeah, for me, it was just more about these moments. But I mean, some of these moments I think are really dope, like Pop Shit, which was one of the lead singles with
Yeah.
Schoolboy Q. That shit's really fucking fire. That's awesome.
That's was probably the top track for me. It sounds like a TDE, Schoolboy Q, even like Kendrick type sound, and I thought that song really stood out. Showstop, just the Kendrick ad libs in there really caught my ear. Obviously, anytime you're getting Kendrick on the track, you're just like, is he about to pop off? I really liked Extinct though. It was like a stripped down like Cali jazz sound near the back half of the album after Sauce. You also have JID and Isaiah Rashad on that.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Sauce with Vince Staples? We're both big Vince
Yeah.
Staples fans. How are you feeling about that one?
I thought it was solid. I don't think Vince jumps out as much as some of the other guys on this. Like Q makes a big impression. I thought Absol on Flick It Up really good. I mean, just great to hear from Absol in general. He's not very active, but and Isaiah, another guy, not very active. I thought he was good on Extinct. Vince was solid on this. Kind of like he was solid on Amine, Pressure on My Palms. But yeah, I mean, and Rhapsody has such a high floor as a lyricist that she made a big impression too. But yeah, I mean, Vince is probably one of my least favorite features on this. He's all right.
Yeah, I was actually pretty disappointed with it. I felt like it was just kind of nothing to write home about from Vince. And like you said, I think Rhapsody is probably my next favorite feature on this. I thought she was great. Just overall, it's funny. I think I liked the features in those moments more than I liked really anything from Reason, which I don't know how good of a sign that is for him on this.
No, I don't think it is a good one. There's a bit of a social media backlash, I guess you could say, following the song Fall, where Reason name drops Mac Miller. And I think a lot of people were just, denigrating that idea as kind of being in poor taste. But if you listen to what Reason's saying, he's talking about how like, the industry kind of sets you up with these deals and surrounds you with yes men, and then you might OD and die like Mac Miller. And it's like, honestly, I thought what he was trying to say was actually pretty on point. But then to throw something so like distracting, almost like shock value by name dropping someone beloved, someone who's dead, it's like, I think it takes away from what you're actually trying to say. It's just kind of like a kind of amateur way to go about something like that, Also, it's not the best read, I think, on Mac Miller's career. Like, I mean, no one anything bad to say about him and how he handled his affairs when he died. So it's like the whole like yes men thing, the labels control you. I don't think that really applied to Mac anyway.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think about this because Reason only a few weeks ago dropped this song called The Soul Part 2, which did not make this album. And on that song, he sent some very pointed disses at Logic for like stealing the culture and stuff. And that song did not make this. Logic, when asked, commented he did not know who Reason was, which is about as disrespectful as it gets. And some people were theorizing that perhaps he was kind of protecting Kendrick. Kendrick and Logic have had like dark, like Cold War beef in the past due to Logic's, sonic inspirations from his peers. But yeah, I think something like the Mac Miller moment, and even something like this Logic moment, which people also weren't even that big a fan of, that kind of stuff shows that you kind of sometimes have a lot more work to do, and like TDE, they have a really good batting average when it comes to signing people, but that doesn't mean everyone's a finished product. Even something like Reason, who has a lot of tapes out already.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because if they kind of knew that or if they could tell that maybe Reason wasn't going to be, really hitting with this album, if it wasn't going to be talked about much, a couple of controversial moments is a good way to at least get people, speaking Reason's name.
That's a good point.
So it's something, although I don't know if coming at Mac is necessarily the way to do it. But
so I had a question for you, though.
Worse ways. Sure.
On TDE, all their big hitters, with the exception of Schoolboy, have not dropped in a long time. Over 3 years since Kendrick and SZA. Over 4 years since Isaiah Rashad. Almost 4 years for Absol as well. Who are you most anticipating? Got that SZA single recently hit different. Rumors are Kendrick may have been shooting something recently out in public. Something's coming from Kendrick and SZA at some point. But yeah, where are you at with those guys?
Kendrick is the obvious number one. Kendrick is literally a top 3 artist in the world, in my opinion.
He just goes away. He doesn't even have to maintain his status.
Yeah, it's crazy. But SZA, I thought we even had like a date, don't we? I thought no
date. She's also kind of expressed some open contempt for how like Punch and everyone at TD has been handling her stuff lately. So it doesn't seem like they're on the same page with that, which is unfortunate, obviously.
Yeah, SZA would be my number 2. But I would really like to hear another album from Schoolboy. The last one was a little disappointing, but obviously most of the stuff he puts out is just bangers and really interesting music. SZA is interesting, but I also feel like that sphere is very like packed right now. Like you even tweeted today about LMI and how we're kind of waiting for that like second album drop, and I'm sure we'll be getting a second album from her in the near future. But when I think of SZA, there's so many contemporaries that go along with her, and while certainly she's probably at the top of that range, I guess I just prefer to hear the strong hip hop over the R&B. So kind of where I. What about you though?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not the biggest Isaiah guy. A lot of people really ride for his music. He hasn't put out a whole lot either. And then Absol just kind of feels like someone who's like half retired at this point because he has medical issues and stuff. But he's always been a really strong artist. When he drops, it's just pretty infrequent. So who knows? But it's interesting too. Like when Kendrick last toured, Q, Soul, J-Rock, who I didn't mention there, and SZA, they were all on tour with him too. Like it's kind of this well-oiled machine how they do it there. And Absol will go on tour even if he doesn't have any new music, so I think they're all fine, but hopefully we get something from one of them by the end of the year.
Yeah, hopefully. If I had put my money, I'm guessing SZA by the end of the year. Kendrick maybe early next year would be my bet, but we'll see. The surprise drop is always a possibility. Why don't we move on though and go from the Pacific Ocean across the Atlantic Ocean to Tottenham, where Headie One dropped his second album, EDNA.
Technically his first album.
How many mixtapes this guy got though? Yeah.
If you include like duo mixtapes and stuff, he has 8 mixtapes. So,
okay,
26 years old, debut album.
Debut album. And I mean, debut album, lot of money put into this. Not only production wise, but features wise. Uh, Fairly obvious if you just kind of read through. You got Stormzy, you got Drake on this.
Mm-hmm. Skepta.
Future. There's a Skepta. There's a lot of people attached to this. So expectations, I think, were fairly high. Did you feel like Edna met those for you, Dave?
Yeah, so this is 20 tracks, right?
Yeah.
Didn't need 20 tracks from my guy Heads right here, especially because we're coming off that pretty eclectic and impressive gang mixtape that he did with Fred again, and kind of contrasting these two projects from April and now, you kind of see the whole spectrum of Headie One music, I think, right? And Headie One, some guy who's risen to the top of UK drill in England in about 2 years' time. It's been a very fast rise for the guy. And you seeing this kind of range is cool. And you get, like, I think pieces and bits of that range still on Edna, but because there's so many tracks, it was kind of hard for me to keep track of the versatility I know he has and he's showing, because at the end of the day on Edna, there are just kind of some more superfluous standard drill tracks sprinkled in with some of the other stuff we know he can do too. And when he's doing the drill well, like there's no one really better, but I think we could have cut this down a little bit. But there's still a lot of moments that I liked. And I think Headie One can drop a fucking banger, my guy. Like man them be melting those phones from time to time.
Yeah, I think I came away feeling like at times this album felt a bit all over the place, but there were two tracks in particular that I was left like, all right, like this is why Headie won. This is why this team behind him can be a legit star. And those two songs, I guess I'll just call them out now. Ain't It Different with AJ Tracey and Stormzy. I mean, you're sampling Crazy Town, Butterfly with that, and it just sounds amazing. And all three of them bring it on that. But then also, I really liked the Drake song, Only You Freestyle. I thought both those tracks were just absolutely great. Drake with another awesome, guest verse after 21 Savage's last week. So, after listening to those two, I was like, okay, Headie's got it. Some of the other tracks, I was like, all right, this sounds like traditional drill, maybe nothing that's like super interesting or engaging or different, but still solid. I think that's kind of the tale of this. Most of it is really, really solid.
Yeah, I agree. I'm speaking to Ain't It Different, which was one of the lead singles. The Drake collab actually came out in the summer, but was not billed as a single to the album. We didn't know about the album at the time, but that song's been out too. But Ain't It Different, that's a song that when I first heard, that kind of really blew me away, because if you think about that, you have three well-known English rap stars, but the least well-known of them, AJ Tracey, is the one who totally spazzes on the track and completely waxes the other two more famous guys. Like, his verse is like the perfect union of flow and beat to me. Like, I think it's so fucking fire. And I feel like Stormzy kind of cut the short end of the stick coming on the song after that impeccable feature from Tracy. So I really like that song a lot. I also love to see another collab from Headie and Skepta. Of course, Back to Basics, perhaps my favorite Headie One song, just a straight banger. And we get them collabing once again on this album with Try Me. And Skepta, the more I think about it, I don't know if he has a bad feature to his name. Like, he's a really special artist for like the less is more thing, where he just kind of adds something because he has such bravado and charisma to his vocal performances, and kind of having a little different energy to throw off Headie is really cool. And then on that song, I thought Headie was really good too. I thought some of my favorite wordplay on this album is with that one, where he makes fun of having a large head, yet still remarks on girls giving him head. Shit was great. And of course, rhymes that with his name, Headie. Like top tier stuff.
Yeah, well, I think he certainly displayed good technical ability on this. I think, like you said, with it being 20 tracks, they're all not going to hit. But another moment I really liked was, I just want to find it here in my notes. Was it was me. Is it Mainstream? Is that one of the songs in the back half?
Solo track.
Yeah, no, at the top. Sorry, I really liked that one. The drums on that were really cool, and it just had a different feel than a lot of the drill, like the kind of dark drill vibe on this. It felt like a nice switch up, and it feels like I feel like we like to talk about this a lot with these drill artists. Is it feels like it expands his rapping vocabulary, it expands his possibility in terms of what he could be as an artist rather than like this one lane. I think I really like to see that throughout because as we've kind of seen with a lot of artists on their second or third album, if they don't start to expand or explore a different sound, it can just kind of feel like, okay, they're the, Pusha T or they're the Rick Ross, who they can be great, but they can never be one of the greatest. So it's just nice to see that potential in other genres play out.
Yeah, I think conversely, in the beginning with Psalm 35, Headie sings the hook on that song. Again, kind of showing a little bit more than what people might have expected from him a few years ago. I also really liked, how was it? Parlez-vous Anglais with H, where they just really trade bars, go back and forth. I think that sounds wonderful. Heich has that one quotable. It's like my wrist isn't French, it's Swiss or something. Talking about his watch. All right, I hear that. Also, on Hear No Evil, I thought Future actually was pretty solid on that. Definitely not a collab I would have thought about going in. Future and Headie One, Future and anyone from England, really. But I thought it was pretty solid.
He was decent. We should probably shout him out because we always bag on him. So. Yeah, I think overall this was a pretty solid project, first album for this guy. So
first album,
feeling pretty good about Headie. Drop us your thoughts, and Dave, any last comments for you on Headie before we move on to the boys?
Yeah, I wasn't actually expecting another full length for him because when he dropped that Gang mixtape, he had only literally just gotten out of jail for that knife sentence. So. And then, you hear about other stuff recently, like apparently Ariana Grande has been working and FKA Twigs made a whole quarantine album. It just seems like everyone is actually just being more productive because there's nothing else to do and no one can tour, like BTS, second album on the way soon. So, I mean, good on Headie. I think he's kind of having a banner year and like Ain't a Difference been a really big chart track in the UK. So he's definitely on the fast track.
Definitely on the fast track, and so is Bill the Butcher, William Butcher. I don't know about fast track maybe, but The Boys on Amazon Prime. Season 2 wrapped up this past Friday. We talked about first episode when it dropped 8 weeks back. Now that season 2 is wrapped up, Dave, I just wanted to check in with you and see, did season 2 of The Boys meet your expectation after a really strong season 1? Did it hold up?
I mean, yeah, I think I probably just calibrated expectations for The Boys. I think it's pretty clear that this is a show that's confident in its ability to continue its existence. It was renewed for season 3 before season 2 came out. There's a fast track spin-off show about Vought Superhero College, which sounds really cool, honestly. Just superhero kids fucking and killing each other. It sounds pretty good. But if you think about like the plot, the narrative of this 8-episode season for The Boys season 2, I guess it's pretty down the middle, straightforward. Nothing's too surprising until a 11th hour twist in the finale, and you have your standard like B plots, split up the characters, do some stuff. But at the end of the day, we're kind of going to the only logical endpoint there was, which was Stormfront not surviving the season. And if you think about it, like her becoming a full-fledged out in the open villain took a very long time to happen. So the season really took its time to progress. But I still really like the hang that is The Boys, even though it's a really grim and dark and gory show pretty consistently. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it feels like something that's we're gonna have for the long run, right? Like Homelander's not gonna die. They're not gonna go get Homelander,
Hmm.
in the middle of the show's run. So I guess it depends what you want. As far as
Yeah.
like the commentary stuff, I like though.
Yeah. I think certain aspects of it were a little bit kind of not as interesting as season one to me. A lot of the stuff with Huey and Starlight, I found myself a little bit like, not so interested in Huey, especially. They really seem like they're setting up that his like kindness is his superpower type of commentary, which
Sure.
or his empathy or humanity. I'm not really sure, but that seems to be like what they're setting up, especially as like a foil or a sidekick to Bill Butcher. Um, I, I thought some of the most interesting stuff actually came with Butcher's wife and his child, and
Yeah.
Homelander's relationship with him, and kind of what that brings out in Homelander's background, and exploring that a little bit more. And I also was really interested at the end of the season with the congresswoman who is obviously being set up to be, I don't know if it's going to be the next villain or what her role will be in season 3, but definitely a very important role. But I think for this show, because like you said, a lot of it is very standard, it was the moments like when they break into that hospital where all of the I guess like superheroes gone wrong or being
Yeah. The
held.
Vought test subjects and stuff.
Yes, the Vought test subjects, or at the end of the penultimate episode when all the heads just start blowing up at the
Nice.
congressional hearing, like, or even like you were kind of saying, like that 12th hour, 11th hour twist in the finale when Maeve shows up, and kind of like saves the day in a sense, but like that showdown I thought was pretty cool, where you finally see like the three superheroes kind of fighting against the one like major superhero. There was some interesting stuff there. The commentary you mentioned, though, tell me about that. Like, what did you find that really hit with that, and what didn't so much?
I mean, yeah, I think it's just the familiarity of what Stormfront and then Homelander's plan of attack was with wooing public opinion. The rhetoric, the posturing, the dog whistling. It's all unfortunately playbooks we know well at this point, and seeing that kind of like fanaticism, and then like again how they slow play Stormfront as someone who ultimately is a huge bigot, and then you actually learn is actually also a literal Nazi, and not just like a new Nazi, but literally a Nazi from when the Nazis began.
Mm-hmm.
Like we used to rub elbows with Goebbels and the like. It's like, oh shit, okay, yeah, she's like really bad. We get it, but
Mm-hmm.
like even before that, it's like when she's using like memes to manipulate people and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, a familiar thing. So I kind of I like seeing those things, and the way she manipulated Homelander, and then like they start like getting it on, but like you see that she has him where she wants him, and then when her past is exposed, Homelander is so devoid of any empathy that he barely reacts to said revelation, and then just fuck
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of seeing that how they layer the characters was good. And I think like if you think about the subplots of the show, there's a lot because we're kind of keeping the entire cast from the first season, right? And I think like anything else, not all of them will hit as well as the other ones. I was actually surprised how much I like the stuff with the Deep and A Train, because I was really unsure of where those characters would go,
Mm-hmm.
be feeling so removed from the main mix. But I actually kind of liked how that concluded. And again, like seeing like when Vought forcibly outs Maeve, right? And you see that kind of stuff again, like Homelander's lack of empathy. But then even from the corporation, it's like, well, yeah, Maeve's bi, but lesbians pull better, so you're going to be a
Mm-hmm.
lesbian now. It's like the show does it a lot, where it has like all these moments where like it grounds like the supreme like meta nature of like the Vought and like the world of the boys, but yeah, I think it's like those little moments, those little quips that stick with me the most. Even just like baseline, like funny stuff, like those gangsters talking about the metaphor of Hamilton cast being people of color.
Yep.
It's and which is fun to hear because uh, early in the episode, Stormfront's urging a very anti-immigration stance earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stuff like that. Also, I like seeing Sean Ashmore
Yeah.
as like playing like a pyro character who we of course know as Iceman in the Singer X-Men movies. So stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah. It does a really interesting job of looping in like current commentary. I almost feel like the Nazi America stuff, um, as uncomfortable as it's just uncomfortable because it's so real at this point. Like, what I mean, we are 2 weeks away, or 2 weeks past our current president failing to denounce white supremacy.
That's
And
right.
um,
Just another day.
having the whole plot of the show basically being how, like Nazis are secretly like building up this potential comeback in the country, and not really even that secret in a lot of ways. It's just a little bit disheartening in some ways, but I do think they do a really good job of making some of the commentary on social media, on in the industry of celebrity,
Yeah.
really pointed and well. And you also mentioned the layering of the character development, and I feel like they also do a really good job of that. And I think especially with someone like Butcher, who I feel like in the first season could be very one note. They do a really good job of expounding on that this season, though I didn't always find it to be the most interesting parts of the show. Hearing more about his background. There was a whole episode where it was kind of like diving into everybody's parental backgrounds a little bit and like family histories a little bit. And I thought his was the one that made the most sense, especially as like his dynamic with Huey was kind of feeling played out, but then seemed to
Yeah.
gain a little bit of meaning as they kind of highlighted how Huey's like the replacement for his brother who died. So I think the writing on the show is good, but like you said, I think they know season 3 is coming back. They're just setting things up, kind of building it out for the long haul. I guess I had 2 questions, and one of them came from, or I guess that both of them came from our friend of the podcast, Sean McKenna. The first, Stormfront. We do not actually see her die. She's like Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Do you think she's gonna get the Anakin treatment here?
That's funny. That's certainly possible. When we see the last thing we see of Homelander is him jerking off on top of some building, right?
Yep.
I literally thought he was like violating Stormfront or something.
I wouldn't have been
her
surprised.
Corpse in that moment. That's what I immediately jumped to because we know how fucked up he is, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. From what Aya Cash has said to the press, it seemed like she was attracted to this role because it was not a serious regular role. Mm-hmm. And after being on You're the Worst for such a long time, she's happy to jump in and out of stuff like this and Easy and Fosse Verdon, right? So maybe she comes back in the future, but she's definitely not going to be a major presence. I think that's pretty safe. But could come back the same way like Simon Pegg as Huey's dad could eventually come back, But yeah, and that's, I mean, like they clearly set up Claudia Domit's congresswoman character to be at least like subtle antagonist for the start of the next season. And we still have Esposito as the head of Vought in play, and that Soup that escaped the hospital, who was really powerful. She got picked up by the hitchhiker, so she's out there. So I don't think we're going to get back to Stormfront anytime soon.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, but it was interesting because, if you don't see him die, there's always that possibility. Sure. Second, I mean, Homelander at this point is like teetering on the edge, if not now pushed over the edge. And the only words that have been told to Anthony Starr in terms of the character for next season is homicidal maniac. Kind of crazy that we haven't seen homicidal maniac Homelander. We've seen some visions of him like torching a crowd with his eyes.
Very striking.
Expectations for him next season.
Yeah, I mean, like I really like when we get into the psyche of him and we show like even his background, his upbringing as someone like crafted in a lab for all intents and purposes, and the social cues he didn't have, and how now he sees himself as an infallible person because for many respects he is that, and um, he doesn't have he doesn't have any real allies, right? So I don't even know what his motivations will be moving forward, because he clearly wants power and adoration above all else. So he wants to stay with Vought. The last scene press conference kind of suggests that he's going to play ball like that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like once you have him be openly murderous or whatever it is, it's kind of like a bridge you cannot back off.
Right.
Like we got like the footage of him on the plane from season 1 and like killing people overseas from a phone and stuff. But like if he does shit in the open again, like the current time that people immediately know about, I feel like the show has permanently transitioned to him being a full-on villain for everybody involved. So I think that probably will happen at one point, but I don't think we're close to that yet.
Yeah, I think we'll see him doing a lot of just like really fucked up shit without being caught on it or blatantly caught. Maybe like another super will see it but not want to expose him still, or be afraid to. But I don't, like you said, I think once he decides to go full bad, then the show is pretty much moving into its final stage. So
yeah,
you kind of have to expect that.
Given that The Boys is so good at lampooning superhero culture and adoration and satirizing so many aspects of it, I think there's actually a great opportunity to do that with Stormfront with that question. Hey, is Stormfront still alive? And they'd be like, no, dude, did you see what happened to her? Well, I didn't see her die. It's like, dude, like she got like severed in half. Or she's dead. Like something like off the cuff, 2 lines like that could actually be a really funny, again, like comment on, like, did the person die? Did you stay for the end credits? Shit like that,
That's actually a really funny idea. I'm also interested to see if they ever pull in like a Batman type character, someone that doesn't actually have superpowers, but kind of like has enough money to like build all this equipment and act like he is a super. I feel like there could be funny commentary.
Do we even know what Black Noir's powers are?
No.
He's just kind of
a super strength, I think.
Machine.
And
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't tell if he's like bulletproof armor or if he's actually like this like big unit. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's low-key menacing.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Although he's given the work a bit at the house there, Butcher's house. So
yeah. I'll shout out John Noble, who makes a cameo as Butcher's dad. That's a Lord of the Rings reunion, which I really enjoyed. Of course, Éomer and Denethor. Really liked seeing that. And also Claudia Domet, who plays the Congresswoman. I knew her from the mocap she did in Call of Duty last year as Farah. So, and watching the season, I was like, oh, she seemed like someone who was an actor on the rise. This is kind of a small part. Should have known that more was in store for her, because I did like her a lot. Kind of like a soft, like AOC stand-in almost, but really just kind of an engaged congressman person. So I like that. And I feel like we need these bureaucratic figures on the show, because we've kind of lost them, right? The original head of Vought, that CIA lady who got her head blown up. Like we've been losing people, so we kind of need these presences. It's not just the Vought people and just the boys. There needs to be a little more, I think, to keep the world feeling fleshed out. And like the whole thing with the church, right? Like we kind of lost that guy at the end there. Like I feel like they could have done more with the presence of that, but I still liked where the Deep and A-Train got to at the end of the day, so I guess it's okay. Was there any subplots you didn't really care for?
I think the church stuff I didn't really care too much for. I also feel like we've really gotten away from I'm forgetting their names, but Butcher's kind of like right-hand men.
Frenchie and Mother's Milk.
Yes, I feel like we've really gotten away from them and their backstory, and I find them enjoyable. But sometimes when we go to Frenchie and the Asian super, Kimiko, it's not my favorite stuff. But I do like Kamiko as a character, though.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more in that bone we haven't got yet, like between their
Yeah.
relationship and like she loses her brother early on. Her brother's painted as this, super terrorist, right? And like
Mhm.
she still only gets a few moments where she's gonna like sign stuff to Frenchie, but like they definitely feel like afterthoughts a bit as far
Yeah.
as the ensemble goes.
Uh, can't wait for it to come back. We do know third season's coming. It's probably sometime next year. I'm hoping the same point. Um, I don't know, Dave. Any last thoughts on the boys?
Definitely, like I said before, I'm very into this spin-off idea.
Yeah,
So I think that has a great potential. So looking
I
forward
agree.
to anything that comes back. I mean, I feel like this is a show, from what we know, this is kind of a longer shoot, a lot of outdoor stuff. They're wearing superhero costumes after all. So I don't know how COVID friendly production
Right.
on the show is. So it might be longer than normal for season 3. I know it wasn't. Well, actually, wait, they might have already done work on it. I'm pretty sure they haven't, but yeah, hopefully it's not too long.
Also, shout out to the soundtrack. I feel like consistently throughout they had a good mix of like newer but not so popular songs and some old school hits, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely some great drops with that stuff. So um, overall, just a really impressive show, and I'm grateful for it as a alternative to HBO programming because I feel like that's all we've been watching recently.
Sure. From what I see here, season 3 is scheduled to go into production February 1st. So we'll see if that sticks.
Hopefully, it does. Wear a mask, but because I mean we're already basically into next week. Dave, what should the people be listening to, watching for next week, while
Yeah,
also wearing a mask?
of course, we'll be talking about stuff we've already discussed, like the end of Lovecraft Country and The Third Day on HBO. On Netflix, we'll have Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of Chicago 7. Finally here, very excited about that. Also, Kajillionaire on VOD, another well-liked film. Maybe taking about some other recent shows soon enough, like The Haunting of Bly Manor, the viral and controversial Emily in Paris. Also, looking forward to the new album from WizKid. I want to see how that stacks up to Burna Boy, because we've been talking about the more international stuff of late. So let's see what that's about.
SoundCloud.com/nostalgiapod, YouTube.com/nostalgiapod, YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. Go to Spotify and search Nostalgia Best of 2020 on Spotify again. And also go to Twitter and at NostalgiaPod, at Martin Swagger. Don't give me a follow. It's not worth it. We'll talk to you all next week. Peace out.